It's 3:04 Leland Live, Talk 99.5, hour number 2 here on a Wednesday, and we are getting on it. What a gloomy day. At least at least it warmed up a little bit. Rain on the way. Shouldn't be severe weather. We may have some thunder associated with it, but the timing on it tomorrow is mainly in the morning hours through early afternoon for most of Birmingham. Then that whole system just drifts off to the south ever so slowly tomorrow. But we do need the rain. It'll be good to get it. We just got out of that red flag situation. Florida is now starting to have, I was talking about this yesterday, they're starting to have fires in the Everglades. The only good news about that is it doesn't affect a lot of structures or housing. Some of it very close to I-75 down around Naples. They've really got fires all over the state, but some of this weather is going to affect them too, and they'll get a couple of inches of rain to help them with their drought. So here comes the rain. Deal with that tomorrow. Could be close to 70 degrees tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to too. AJ, I still can't get right. I got used to I got used to 75 degrees, and it was 60 degrees today, and I was still cold. I was like, my body already flipped. I said, go ahead, change the time, let it be spring. But we know it's not going to ever. I did see the long-term forecast. We're 2 weeks, and we don't have really cold weather at all for at least the next 2 weeks. We may get well into March before we get punched in the face again.
Yeah. Look, what we said this the other day. I'm going to look about end of April before I really be like, okay, we're in warm weather season. Because mid-April, we can still get some snow. We can still get ice and cold weather.
It could happen. I've told this to the audience several times. I used to always say March 13th, if we can make it to March 13th, because that was the blizzard of 93. But we did have one in April a couple of years ago. We got a little snow on the ground, but I'm just ready to be done with it. You see, I still got my warm fuzzy vest on today. I was cold, man. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for some more sunshine. But anyway, yeah, changing the weather. Looks like a pretty nice weekend in the 70s. A lot of sunshine. Love it. All right, we got room for your phone calls now. If y'all want to get in here, Lonnius Furniture Company bringing you the show tonight. LAUNIUS, LonniusFurnitureCompany.com. Y'all, that's my furniture store. Mainly, it goes all the way back to, Lonnius had been on the show for years and years. But when I bought my house, it was a clean slate. I could do anything I wanted. I lived alone, didn't have any furniture really that I wanted to keep, and I was ready to make this house work. And so they were able to get me outfitted with furniture that actually fit the style of the home very, very well. And I still love it. When Jessica and I got married, I thought she was going to come in and throw all my stuff away. She came in and went, no, looks great. And so that's good. I mean, that's just how they are. It's timeless stuff, classic styles, and even some edgy styles. That Stressless line is a very modern, high-end line of furniture. They've got that stuff too. Just because it's in a little bitty small Alabama town doesn't mean it can't be the most stylish stuff made in the industry. That's how they've been around for 92 years. I got to reach out to Reggie and get the exact time. But that's a long time. This is a store that's going to hit 100 years in business, and we don't have many businesses that are still around after a century. And that's because in that business, if you do the fundamentals, and this has always been true, have the best built stuff, styles people want, fair prices, custom delivery, and stage it so they can see it, that always works. That's always worked. And that's exactly what you're going to find at Lonnius. If you go up to Lonnius, get off on exit 280 right off 55. It's kind of halfway between, I guess a little less than halfway between downtown and sort of up in the Coleman area. It's very north part of Jefferson County. Not far at all for some of you. Long way for some of you. But even y'all will save time just making one trip to one place instead of running all over trying to comparison shop. You comparison shop at Lonnius right there in the store. I mean, it's all right there in the store. An acre of furniture under one roof. Y'all go see Reggie and the team and let them get you outfitted with something beautiful for your home. And as I said, they'll bring it to you. They'll bring it all the way to you. Lonnius Furniture Company, LAUNIUS, LonniusFurnitureCompany.com. All right, let's start back at the top. I'll try to reset everything from last hour. It's pretty much the same stuff as last hour. However, we're getting some developments, not anything definitive, but we've had a situation with Cuba today that could turn into an international incident. Depends on who was on this boat and what they were doing. But the Cuban government acknowledged today through their embassy here that they shot an American boat out of the water, or fired on a boat. We'll put it that way, not to overstate it. But they fired on a boat that had at least, maybe by my count, 10 Americans on it. The boat was registered out of Florida. They say it got into their territorial waters. They sent a guard, their version of, I guess, a Coast Guard, out to inquire about the boat. They said the people on the boat opened fire on them. They returned fire and killed 4 people on that boat. We presume they're Americans. And I would caution you, because we don't have all the details, just because the boat was registered in the United States, that doesn't mean those were Americans. Now, that boat could have been up to a lot of stuff. It could be part of this drug operation stuff because, the cartels are still trying to find a way to move product. They could have been smuggling people out of Cuba, which has been going on for decades in that situation. But whatever has happened, we have not heard a definitive response, to my knowledge, yet from the Trump administration over what they believe happened or who fired first or who's at fault. The 6 other people were injured in the exchange, according to the Cubans, from the boat. They took them for treatment inside Cuba, and that's about all we know right now. So, Cuba is in the crosshairs of a possible overthrow at the moment. Their economy's collapsing. They've been cut off from Venezuela. Iran's in a box right now. Iran had been helping Cuba quite a bit. Russia's preoccupied with Ukraine. Cuba's out there on its own again, trying to survive as a communist state. And as we all know, anybody with any literacy whatsoever knows that communism never works economically as a system. It is an immoral, failed ideology, and it's been propped up in Cuba ever since by these larger benefactors just that want to keep it going. And in some ways, it was helping to prop up Venezuela and getting Venezuelan oil. But those dominoes started to fall when Maduro got snatched, and it was a chess move that's affected everything. So if anything pops up on this Cuba situation, we'll let you know about it. That's one of the main stories right now. We've got new FBI activity around the Guthrie house. We don't know what that's about. We've had a raid on the LA City Schools operation, missing money. This is the feds. They've gone after the superintendent to his house. Could be millions, tens of millions of dollars missing. That story's being developed. A few Epstein things are in the news too. We're trying to figure out what that's all about. So we're chasing some headlines. And then, of course, I think I've said all I've got to say about the State of the Union. I don't mind hearing from some of y'all. It was a good night for the president by any measure. Look, if you hate Trump, you hate Trump. So what? I don't even care what you have to say. Democrats sitting on their hands. That's nothing new. Scowling. Ilhan Omar is an idiot. We know that. That's not a headline. She's just a rage-filled person who's, by the way, more Somalian in her heart than she is American by any measure. But when you look at the statistics on it, the instant polls, the reaction to the speech, and the fact that Trump laid a trap for the Democrats to sit there and visually demonstrate how they do not put Americans first, that is a winning issue for the rest of the midterms. And they laid that trap. These idiots sat there and fell right into it. And millions of dollars are about to be spent on ads using that moment last night, just endlessly through November of this year. And I think it'll be effective to the persuadable people that are still going to go out and vote in the midterms, not the hardcore Trump supporters or the people that have just got Trump derangement syndrome that are never going to support. I mean, Trump can stand there and award a guy who flew his helicopter. Did you see the guy last night? He flew in and dropped off Delta Force to snatch Maduro. They shot his legs up. They shredded the man's legs while he's flying the helicopter, and he still landed the helicopter. He got his guys out and got his helicopter back, and everybody survived, even though he was. Can you imagine be sitting there with your legs shredded by bullets and you're still able to fly? It's much more dramatic, but then we also have the hockey player there with the teeth missing after he wins the gold for the country. Straight up heroes, old guys, 100-year-old guy from the Korean War, a war my grandfather fought in, being finally honored publicly like that in front of his whole country. This guy the other guy from the Maduro raid gets the Medal of Honor in front of everybody last night. And these fools just sat there. You either love the country or you don't. You either can set aside your pettiness and salute heroism and get over your Trump rage, or you don't. You even had some commentators after that called it a medal ceremony. They, diminishing the value of what was done last night for these Americans. There was nothing out of line about those medals. It's what we've done for a long time, saluting Americans. It really started under Reagan, and it's become a theme of every president that's ever given one of those speeches. They point out everyday Americans and how they represent who we are and what's going on. And last night you saw heroism and bravery and optimism and a plan, an actual plan that's understandable about how to approach the economy and put us first again and recover from the years that we spent just really under siege and under attack by the previous administration. It was a good speech. And even the CNN polls got 64% of the people that watched it say, hey, we're on a better track now. And we are. It's not a hard argument. We're not there yet. Country's got a long way to go. And we're teetering. If these idiotic Republicans can't get the SAVE Act passed, they could very well lose the midterms for a number of reasons. One, the Democrats get to keep cheating with fake voters and non-citizens. But two, the MAGA base is going to stay home. If they let the MAGA base down on the most fundamental, easy layup vote of their lifetimes, but also consequential, they're going to stay home. I'm telling you, I know these are my people. They're not going to go out and vote for the R brand anymore. Some will out of just loyalty or habit or fear of the Democrats, but most of them will just be disincentivized. Now, Thune today, for his part, says there will be a floor vote. We're going to bring it to the floor. I don't trust him. That's a two-step. We've heard that before. If he doesn't play hardball, the Democrats will get away with filibustering this thing to its non-existence. But you make them stand there and actually do a real filibuster. The modern filibuster is not a filibuster at all. It is a marker that triggers a 60-vote requirement. It's not part of any real tradition or institutions in our country. It's a lazy way to slow a bill down. If you're going to stop a bill, we should go back to the traditions of having to earn that by actually filibustering, standing there and making your points, delaying the bill and making your argument. Let them do that for days. Let them tell us why, when 85+% of Americans support voter identification at the polls, that somehow that's a bad idea. They can't do that, and they know they can't do that. But here's Thune the Poon, tried to tell y'all when they were doing the leadership vote that was a mistake. They did it anyway. Put the establishment guy in there. Maybe he'll change my mind later. But he's out talking and he's getting immense pressure. I saw an ad campaign today encouraging the members of the Senate to do the right thing and take that House bill and shove it on them. Anyhow, so there's that. There's your updates. When news breaks on any of these fronts, I'll bring it to you right now. We're loaded up with phone calls, so let's hit it. We got lots of people getting in here tonight. We'll start with Lamar. I think he's first in today. Line 2. What's up, Lamar? How you doing?
Hey, Leland, boy, I love the way you bring it every day, man. I tell you, you stay firm because you're solid. Well, I love your show. It's on my speed dial, trust me.
Thank you. Thank you, Lamar.
Yeah, but I was thinking of last Sunday, and I was thinking about this week. At the end of church, we forget the end, and one guy stood up and he said he was concerned about a lot of this Epstein stuff that's going on, and boy, that got everybody's attention because the people ain't really talking about it in church. But then he did brought it out, and think about all them children that was brought across the border. All those kids. Nobody knows where they are. Well, they know. Somebody knows where they are. And a lot of them could have ended up, Epstein. And I don't believe Epstein Island's, is the only one like that either. I think there's others just like
Well, there's a ranch out in New Mexico called Zorro Ranch, and the state officials have now officially begun an investigation of the accusations and some amount of evidence that there may be bodies buried. As Epstein at one point, I think, owned this ranch, and it's been bought out and it's been renamed. But there's something suspicious there, and there are ground investigations going on at that ranch right now to see if bodies were buried out west.
Well, the Democrats cried and screamed for Trump to release these Epstein files, and now that he has, a lot of them backpedaling like I don't know what, and then you see them hiding and resigning and everything. What they've done to these women and children over there, they deserve to be set up in front of a firing squad, because that is just awful. Even if they rescue some of these kids, which I hope they do, some of them will never be the same, Leland. They're just going to be so messed up.
Well, a lot of them are grown by now. This has been going on so long. A lot of these are grown women now. They're in adulthood. Yeah. Some have come forward, some haven't, some have died.
Think about the stuff, Leland, that they can't tell the people that they find out that went on in there, how awful it probably was.
For sure. Yep.
But Leland, I'm going to tell you what, I just love your show, and I tell everybody, I got a lot of people listening to you now, and but you just stay grounded the way you are. because a lot of shows like this, the Democrats, I call them demon-crats, they'd love to shut you up. But you got a lot of people like us that love you and love this show.
Well,
and
I'm not afraid of them.
You stay firm like you are, and you stay your course.
We've been doing it for 16 years, Lamar. We're just going to keep going until I just run out of gas. How about that? Thanks, Lamar. I appreciate it, man. Or run out of coffee. If they ever quit making coffee, AJ, or energy drinks, show's over. Hank's in Calera. What's up, Hank? How you doing, man?
What's going on? It's Pank.
Hey.
Pank from Clear. But the Epstein files, I think, is ultimately what's going to do the Republicans in, because it's kind of weird how he's redacting all these things, and he's clearly in the files. Trump is.
Oh, well, hold on. I want to challenge you on that. No. Stop talking. I got to ask you a question. Give me any evidence you have that he's clearly in the files. You said clearly.
Well, they came out 2 months ago and said there was no files.
No, they've never said there was no files.
I mean, he won me back a little bit last
No,
night.
I ask you a question. What evidence do you have that Trump is, quote, clearly in the files? Now, we know he knew Epstein. They've had their picture made. They ran in the same circles. But when you say clearly in the files, what do you mean?
His name is in the files.
Of course, because they knew each other. They had correspondence with each other, like a lot of people that were in the files as well.
It looks like Trump is being influenced by Israel. Epstein was a Mossad agent for Israel to get dirt on all the...
That's quite possible. But Trump's the one that turned him in. You realize that, right? Yeah. Trump called the FBI. He was one of the first whistleblowers.
Why don't they do a full release on the Epstein files?
You know where that was, Hank, or Tank, or whatever your name is? That was in the Epstein files. That Trump called the FBI and said, y'all need to investigate Ghislaine Maxwell. There's something going on with this woman. She's evil. He picked up on it because he saw them trolling at Mar-a-Lago trying to pick girls up to recruit them.
Why don't they do a full release?
Well, they did. All the documents are out, and then the Congress has had access to all the other documents. They've got the unredacted documents in Congress. They redact the names of victims. That was a requirement of the law. You understand that, right?
It looks like Trump has been influenced by Israel.
Well, that may be what you want it to be, but you don't have any evidence whatsoever of that. None.
That Epstein was a Mossad agent?
Well, I'm not talking about that. That's not what you said. You said Trump was being influenced by Israel on this case. Trump blew the whistle. They called Trump to ask him what he knew, and he said, "Come to my office." This was before he became president. He told them everything he knew. Do you believe that the Biden administration and the Obama administration had dirt on Trump in the Epstein files and didn't use it?
How do you know Biden and Obama aren't being influenced by Israel as well?
Well, I think
maybe
anybody that's an American
Democrats
president,
or Republicans.
You'd have to be stupid to think that Israel would not try to influence every American president. They're a foreign country that wants relations with our presidents. That's true. Every country in the world is trying to influence the president. Thanks. Good try, Tank. You need to do some homework before you call this show, though. You can't just, if you're going to make a declarative statement, just advice to people, I don't mind you call them, but if you're going to declare something like that, back it up. Tell me where are you going? I don't care about your gut feelings and what you want to be true. That's all we get from the left nowadays. We get what their emotions want to be true. And then they go and try to find innuendo or innuendo or whatever outdo you got. And they try to substantiate their emotions and their political beliefs based on rumors they read on social media. That ain't enough. That's not enough for a legal case, a criminal case, or an ethical case, or a proper argument in a format like this. You got to make a good argument. I'll listen to you. You got something I'll listen to. I want to know about all of it. You got nothing. So quit blabbing and do some homework. I guarantee you don't know any more than is already out there. There is no way that these people fabricated the Georgia case, the tax case that they brought in New York, the Russiagate case, the classified documents case. They fabricated all these elaborate theories, went out and got prosecutions, raided the man's house, put him on trial, did a mugshot, failed, and they had this sitting in their lap. There's no way that happened. It did not happen. That is not from planet Earth. Back here in just a minute. Y'all stay tuned. All right, y'all. Work Trucks bringing you the show tonight. If you got a business or an organization and you need a commercial business-oriented truck, y'all go see them at Work Trucks, man. They've got them. Everything in the industry, really. They keep a sample or a few of each thing, so they've always got a good selection for you. If they don't have exactly what you're looking for, they can track it down. We're talking about box trucks and vans of all shapes and sizes, cargo and passenger, the big flatbed trucks, trucks with lift cranes on them. You've got pickup trucks, outfitted or not, all of that stuff down at Work Trucks, pre-owned. So you're going to save money, and warranties and everything you would expect from a turnkey dealership. Man, you got a business to run. You don't need to be wasting time trying to manage a fleet. Let Work Trucks just keep you supplied and keep you in business while you go take care of your customers with good looking, reliable trucks from Work Trucks, TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com, WorkTrucksLLC.com. All right, let's get JJ in here real quick. JJ's on line 1. What's up, JJ?
Hey, Leland, mine is on a different level than your previous 2 callers.
No, that's okay.
I wondered if you noticed, and I'm sure you did, and you mentioned Reagan earlier, so I know you remember him. I was thinking you might be too young to remember him, but glad to hear you do. But did you see how Trump got in some levity in the whole serious business there, especially before when he was talking about winning and winning and winning like he's been doing ever since he's been president and before. And, when he was introducing the boys from the hockey.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
look, his energy was good last night. It was, JJ, it was even too good for the sound man because that's some of the worst audio quality. Every time he get loud, it would fry like an old Krakow radio from the 70s. All right, we got to take good call, JJ. Bottom of the hour break. Y'all wide open for phone calls. Y'all bring it back in a minute. Y'all, Blakely's Bouquets is ready to get some flowers delivered for you. We've gotten through the Valentine's period. I'm sure they took a little rest over at Blakely's. And then they get ready for the rest of spring, man. We've got a lot of occasions. Mother's Day's coming up. Easter's coming up. If you want an arrangement for your Easter table, they can put together a centerpiece that'll blow their minds. Of course, we got graduation season. There's always a good season to give flowers. And then there's the just because flowers. Sometimes you got somebody you just want to surprise them and say, hey, I love you, thinking about you. Or you got somebody in your life that's dragging. They're going through some hard stuff. A little note on that little white card that goes on that bouquet can just be the difference some days and letting them know you're really thinking about them. That's better than a text. It's Blakely's Bouquets. This is my personal florist, and I use them all the time. I want you to use them too. Fellas, if you're like me, I'm a little bit what I call flower illiterate. I'm not that good at picking them out. I used to hate the old days when you'd call a florist on the phone. They'd try to get you to describe what you wanted. Then I was stumped. They'd go, well, what were you thinking? I was like, I don't know, something cheap. Listen, Blakely's has got prearranged designs that you can take a look at and say, okay, that looks nice. Let's send her that one. Put your message in there, pay them online. You can literally have flowers sent in 2 minutes, maybe less, at Blakely's Bouquets. Otherwise, if you're a flower person, you want to go and work with them personally, they're over in Edgewood and Homewood. They'd love for you to drop by. It's Blake and Lee, two names that they put together, BlakeLeesBouquets.com, BlakeLeesBouquets.com. All right, we still got Alvin over here. AJ, is Alvin still there? He's been holding since last break. I appreciate it. We got two Alvins. We'll go to the first Alvin in Springville. What's up, Alvin?
Hey, Leyland, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Of interest, the Chief Warrant Officer that was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor and the Naval Captain who deservedly received the Medal of Honor also. If you'll read the bio on the Chief Warrant Officer, this is not his first rodeo. This man has more medals, DFCs, Bronze Stars. I think it's great that the POTUS recognize these men. A long time coming. And for those who don't appreciate what award they received, they wear what they call the button. A general has to salute that Chief Warrant Officer, if I'm correct. That's the highest honor that we can reward and justly.
Oh, man, we lost his call. That happened a couple times yesterday, too, and he was on a roll, too. AJ, we still have other Alvin. We'll call him. No, it's Kyle. I'm sorry. We got Kyle over in Hoover. Kyle, what you got? And if Alvin calls back, let's put him back on. Kyle, what's going on tonight?
Oh, nothing much. Just pretty impressed with the State of the Union. I'm actually going to call Blakely's Bouquet and see if she can send flowers to the Democrats because they pretty much got buried last night, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but the one thing I was proud of is when he just kept calling them out, going, "You should be ashamed of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
This is your fault. You did a lot of this." But the one thing I was going to ask you, now I had asked Andrew McLean this, and he kind of agreed, but the one thing I wanted to get your opinion on is the way that Trump set them up, and with the, are you do you believe that citizens become before the illegal immigrants? And the Democrats literally realized they stepped into it and they couldn't get out of it, and they knew it was bad. So I know some people were saying, that won't have any effect. I disagree. I think it will. Now, the people that have Trump derangement syndrome, no. They'll never, ever give Trump credit. They'll always go against Trump. But the people that are like, hey, I may not like Trump, but that's ridiculous. You guys should stand up for American citizens. Do you think that hurts them in the midterms coming up?
Well, it wouldn't if it was just a State of the Union speech and they did a bunch of tacky stuff, which has become a thing lately in states of the union. But the way it was set up last night, and I went through a long speech about this at the beginning of the show, it was a clearly asked question with a clear up or down answer. And they fell into that moment that is now captured on video with a 2-minute applause, which allowed so many cutaway shots. The Republican message machine can now put millions of dollars behind that moment and add to it every dumb other thing that they'll do between now and the midterms. And I do think that has an effect on persuadable voters, not MAGA people or TDS people, but persuadable people that are kind of fed up with all the politics and are very cynical. You have to believe that there's still pretty deep patriotism in the country. You can sense that with the hockey team. There was some left-wing sportscaster, and for the life of me, I don't know how sportscasters turned into such a bunch of beta male poons nowadays, especially on ESPN. This guy was a writer, Reese Davis notwithstanding. He's a good friend of mine, but there are that industry has gone so lefty. They were trying to trash the hockey team for even going to the State of the Union, or saying something like they won the medal, but they lost the room. They didn't lose the room. The country's loving these guys because they represent masculinity and victory and hard work and grit and everything that we've always admired in America. And that pales in compared to the war heroes, but all that was on display last night. That was when people get to chanting USA, USA, that was the cheer on one side. And the other side was seething and bitter and small. Kyle, if I could have advised the Democrats last night, because they were in a box, they didn't know whether to pitch a fit or go to or not go and go to some side protest which flopped. They didn't know what to do. If they had just shown some class, and I know that's beyond some of them, maybe it's not in their DNA, but just show a little class, grit your teeth and go along with it. Stand up when there's a good point, sit on your hands when you don't agree, and just be normal. They would have survived last night. But their dementia that's the wrong word, their narcissism and their neurotic state that they've whipped themselves into, I think they just fear their own nut base so bad that if they'd stood up, they'd get more fire immediately from the freaks that are always in their inbox. If they had just done like Fetterman's not a Republican, and he says a lot of stuff that I think's crazy, but he put a suit on, which was counter to his little brand, and he went and he applauded what he liked, and he sat down when he didn't, and he acted like a normal human being. If they'd just done that, Trump wouldn't have had his moment. But Trump knew their plan was to sit there and be stoic. So he threw them a big hunk of red meat, and they still sat there because their consultant said, no, just sit there on your hands, don't yell, don't get thrown out. The other thing I think that happened was that, and I have to believe the Republican delegation basically was in on this when Trump sprung that moment, because they sustained the applause for a long time, and they seemed to sense that the Democrats looked foolish right then. And you had Speaker Johnson, who again I'm a huge critic of from time to time, but instead of throwing out the two terrorists, the congressperson from Somalia and her Palestinian partner, instead of throwing them out for being just manic, that pissed a lot of people off, and they thought, why would you let them do that? Let them do that. That was beautiful. Yeah. I was laughing so hard. I was like, if we aren't doing the things to fix this country, that woman's eyes would go back in her head. The fact that she's bug-eyed and crazy and ready to pull the cord on her suicide vest any minute is exactly where we want her. If you're not governing aggressively and taking the wood to these people, they're not pissed off and crazy right now. So because they're pissed off and crazy and can't get it together and use some strategery, if they'd have just shown some dignity and thought strategically last night, they would have denied Trump a gift, but they handed it to him by just being fools. And that's good. That's good going into the midterms. That means, look, I know demographically, Kyle, they've got some advantages with racially gerrymandered districts and some of the ways we elect. And right now, unless the SAVE Act passes, they've got some mechanisms to stuff fake votes into the voter rolls and win districts. But outside of that argument, if in a place where a party is struggling with fundraising, they don't seem organized, they're fighting with each other over that Texas Senate seat, they don't have a national leader with a singular voice. AJ pointed that out yesterday. Nobody's emerged. They've still got a presidential fight to go through to figure out who their real leader is. Each one that steps up makes a fool out of themselves and goes back and hides with the faux pas lately. They don't have a message. They don't have a leader. The organizational structure is a mess. And Trump has taken away all their toys. USAID has been disrupted. They can't launder money through that mess. These people they were bringing across the border in that invasion have all dried up. Not a single person has crossed since they closed that border. And these were things they were counting on, and Trump has messed up all their little play toys. The NPR fake propaganda machine, even the private sector networks that give them fluff on a daily basis and give them cover are losing their audiences as quickly as they can. CNN is all but dead. MSNBC had to go rebrand itself. It's in such trouble. They're losing some of their megaphone. Now, they haven't lost their intensity, But they're in a mess right now, and you could see it last night. Will it last for 8 months? The only thing that could get in the way of their ultimate defeat in the midterms are the Republicans themselves, and they are quite capable of doing something stupid or failing to act on the aggressive stuff or be as aggressive as their president and pass the SAVE Act. And by the way, codify some of the stuff Trump's done through executive orders with, say, the border policies. And if they don't put that into law, all this stuff disappears in about 3.5 years. It's all over. Everything that we're celebrating right now gets reverse engineered if the Republicans don't hold. The only value they have right now is they're a stick in the bicycle spokes of the Democrat Party. They're a speed bump right now. They're a deterrent. They're a cog in the gears right now against the Democrats, and that's the only value they have. They're just not Democrats, and that's the only way they get votes right now. But if they would strap it on and cinch up their pants and get their hands dirty and go to work and pass some of this stuff and put it to them, I think the MAGA base turns out in droves for them in the midterms. But if they don't, we're watching and people are pissed and they're not going to go vote. They're going to lose 20% of their own vote by being just poons on this whole thing.
Oh, I agree. And I laugh because I hear some of these analysts, and of course they're very liberal. They're trying to say, well, Trump didn't really cover the one thing that people care about, and that's the cost of goods and all this. And
it's all he talked about.
I'm like, he did. And then what I also think is funny too is if you talk to them, they'll say some of these people are struggling. Yeah, where are they at? New York, Colorado, California? Yeah, that has nothing to do with the federal government. That's got everything to do with your own crappy little states taxing you and getting fees and running everything up, because there's a reason everybody's leaving to go to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia. Oh, yeah. They're going to these places because they don't have to deal with that crap, and they're happy, and they can buy their stuff and not have problems.
That's a bigger problem for them going forward. When we do the 2030 census, the Democrats are going to lose about 19 seats as it stands. And this is before whether or not we get a ruling from the Supreme Court over the way we count the census and whether or not Americans will continue to be counted and birthright citizenship and all those things. A lot of that's still yet to be decided, but electorally, because of population shifts, they're going to lose big in the Electoral College and Congress. The reason they're really pissed off about some of the immigration stuff, it's not just the voters that they're trying to get them into the voting system, is that they need them in the head count. California has a whole model to let Americans leave their state and bring people in from all over the world to replace them so they don't lose their census counts. And every time a deportation flight flies out of this country, it hurts that effort. They're engineers that are behind the scenes that rigged this whole thing for the last 20 years and have been setting up all these back channel operations. They're in a panic. They're in an absolute panic that the things and the strategies they've been using are being confronted in every meaningful way right now by this whole administration. And this goes all the way down to the corruption investigations and some of their own officials that I believe are about to get arrested and go to prison for stealing money.
And it's amazing when you think how deep it all goes and how much of it there is. And we've only touched the surface of it. And I agree. I think it was you that said if you really looked into the fraud, I would not be surprised if that fraud number reaches almost like $1 trillion.
It's a lot of money. It's a huge part of our deficit right now. And there's incompetence, then there's waste, then there's sort of a soft corruption in the way bad government is done. But what we're talking about right now is actual theft. I mean, actual stealing the money or giving it to your colleagues or your spouses or using it for political purposes. All that stuff, and it's so big, and I don't trust Pam Bondi to really shepherd this thing. She's a big talker, but she spends more time getting herself fixed up for her Fox News hits than she does actually putting out subpoenas and warrants. So we're in a weird place right now. We're on the precipice of it's like we're being thrown a life preserver, and we're almost about to drown. That'll get us to shore, but we're not there yet. We're just clinging to the boat that has been sinking for a while because of all this mismanagement, and it's been a long time. So I know people were excited, and the turnaround has been amazing in a few short months where things are going in a better direction. They're not where we want them, but they're absolutely heading in the opposite direction as they were under Biden, particularly. But all that ends, I'm telling you, the clock's ticking. Trump's got less than 3 years now.
He does, but I think I have a feeling that's why he kind of put J.D. Vance in charge of the fraud part.
Hey,
I think
JD,
he has a feeling like, yeah,
JD Vance has got to win. All right, thanks, buddy. And I'm not convinced JD Vance is the most electable person. I love him, but I'm not sure he's the most electable person to put on the head of that ticket at this point. I'd vote for him in my sleep twice if I could. There may be a flip there where Rubio has stepped up in a way where it could be Rubio Vance. Either way, I'm comfortable. And the Republicans are in a much better position in that race, having an experienced team ready to go, while the Democrats flail around and figure out which identity group they want to run this time. Because it can't be the loser white boy from California that can't get it together and has ruined his state. But they don't care about track records. They don't even care about faux pas. Everybody thinks the faux pas of AOC and Newsom, that won't last a month. These people are emotionally driven. They're going to attach themselves and convince themselves that whoever is the front runner is the next second coming. And they always do that. That's just how Democrats think, man. I watch them do it every time. They don't care about any of this stuff because they don't really have values in the same way. Now, they have values, but that's not the front and center thing. It's identity and emotion. And they can whip themselves into any emotional. I mean, they convinced themselves that Kamala Harris was credible for about 8 months, didn't they? They sat there and looked at this woman that they themselves rejected and said, oh, yeah, she's great. She had that lady twerking on her opening. Yeah, that's what America wants. Didn't work. And by the way, any party that would put up Joe Biden and that woman as president and vice president and pretend, they sat there and told you that man was sane and senile, not senile, that was lucid. They had to convince themselves so they could go say it out loud, but they did it. I'll give them credit, man. They stick to it. They'll stick to it. All right, y'all, Alabama Dental Associates. I got an appointment this coming up in a couple of days over there. Get a checkup. I go every 6 months. They got me on rotation because you got to take care of those things. Now, I don't have any chronic issues so far. It'll happen eventually. Some of y'all do. You got very peculiar and very unique issues that you need a specialist for. Well, guess what? They got 4 specialists in the practice, and that does several things. Gives them a lot of expertise, but it also gives them flexible hours so they can take care of you as late as 7 o'clock at night, so you can hop by there after work, or on Saturdays when it's a whole lot less stressful to get in and out of the dentist. Y'all go see a comprehensive practice that can handle everything you bring. And longtime sponsors of the show, it's alabamadental.com, alabamadental.com. Man, we got to get to moving. Leland Live, talking to NM5, getting close to the top of the hour. Alvin's back. Want to get him in here too. But first, I'll tell you, this is a true story. We did our little trip, had a little week vacation, traveled for a few days, and you always get a little homesick at some point. You're ready to get back to the routine. I was ready to get back to my barn. All my stuff, all my dude stuff, all my projects and everything. It was good to just open the door and say, I got all this I want to do this spring. I love this structure that I built on my property. It was it was really the reason I bought property with land. I always wanted a place where I could have this kind of space. I do know I learned a lot of lessons because I did not know about All American Metals. And so I sort of pieced this project together, but just putting different elements together on my own. That just took way longer than it should have. It was a little bit of a headache. Man, you go to All American, you can have one of these buildings built. They do the custom design work. They get you a real set of plans based on what you actually need. They'll even help you figure that out. You may think you know, but talk to the experts about what kind of space you need. Then they're going to build the building for you. That is, they'll produce the whole building at their factories, all the components, the framing, the support structures, secondary framing. They bend their own steel, metal sheets and get it all to you. They bring it on their truck like a big box of Legos. And if you need help getting it out of the ground, they'll help you with that too and advise you along the way. Steel is just an incredible value per square foot for its durability and the ease of use. So consider it if you got a hobby project like mine, or maybe it's even bigger. You've got a commercial operation, which is really the crux of their business, and you need a large warehouse or retail build out. They do all that, and they do it locally. They're faster, cheaper, and custom than some of the big boys, so you're going to get a better value. The turnaround's quicker, and you're working with great guys, great patriots. Maybe that's why they call their business All American Metals. Great company. AA-metal.com. Look at some of their projects online. You'll see what I mean. And just get in touch with them and start planning. It's AA-metal.com. Okay, Alvin's back. He was getting to a point. Alvin, somehow we lost your call. I'm glad you he dropped off again. Alvin needs to get him a new phone, man. Dang.
Look, I told him the same thing. We gotta work on that, man.
We had that yesterday, and I don't know if it's the phone systems, because I was having trouble with a cell phone the other day too, where there were these dropouts. It could be the Chinese hacking us. Who knows? Who knows?
He did say he lived in the sticks.
Yeah, well, also living in the sticks, I can relate. There are days it's like you got great cell, and then why does it change? I have no idea. All right, we're still following, and I'm gonna give you an update at the top of the hour. We'll have to I don't want to dig too deeply into it, especially with not much new news, but there's an international incident, it seems, between the U.S. and Cuba, where a boat was shot out of the water by the Cubans. We don't know what was going on that vessel, but it was a speedboat, and the Cubans confronted it and got in a firefight near their territorial waters. I'm still waiting for the U.S. government to say something, but a lot of attention on that incident this afternoon. We'll give you details in a minute. All the other top items today in the news, and more of your phone calls. Leland Live, talking to NM5. Y'all hang in there. We'll be right on back.